The software called Pegasus, developed by an Israeli surveillance technology firm NSO, can hack into smartphones and access data on it.
Pegasus is a spyware developed by the cyber arms company NSO Group that is designed to be covertly and remotely installed on mobile phones running iOS and Android. In 2024, NSO was ordered by a US court to hand its code for Pegasus and other spyware products to WhatsApp as part of the company's ongoing litigation. The decision by Judge Phyllis Hamilton is a major legal victory for WhatsApp, the Meta-owned communication app, which has been embroiled in a lawsuit against NSO since 2019, when it alleged that the Israeli company's spyware had been used against 1,400 WhatsApp users over 2 weeks. In today's video, we will have a closer look at this spyware. How does it work? Can it be detected? What's the risk involved? All these and more are what we will be looking into. Let's get straight into it. It is truly dazzling to know that Pegasus can install malware that gives it total access to your phone and circumvent security measures with only one text message. It can access all of your past messages, sent and received, as well as all of your photos, videos, and emails. It can also activate your microphone, even when you're not making phone calls, and record everything you do in the room. It can activate your camera, capture screen content, connect to your GPS, and track your whereabouts. That's crazy, right? Shockingly, Pegasus is also capable of doing all of this without your knowledge. So, what's Pegasus? Pegasus is the name of the spyware technology that makes this feasible.
Pegasus is the brainchild of an Israeli tech company, NSO.
Pegasus is most likely the most sophisticated malware ever created. It is, in essence, the most intrusive monitoring method that exists. You are mistaken if you thought that some areas of your life could be kept secret and on your phone. Unfortunately, once Pegasus is on your phone, it makes no difference whether you use Signal or WhatsApp, which are both end-to-end encrypted and give you the impression that you are secure. Pegasus is almost undetected and can infect both iOS and Android devices. Therefore, a zero-day vulnerability is one of the ways Pegasus will target your phone. Undoubtedly, even phone manufacturers were unaware of this vulnerability. NSO Group is a surveillance firm, and Pegasus is their flagship product. The NSO Group has sold copies of Pegasus to governments all across the globe, and those countries are the ones who are utilizing this malware. Surprisingly, however, The Guardian research has shown that NSO's government customers often misuse Pegasus. This research is remarkable since some Guardian employees have access to a wealth of information via forbidden stories. Tens of thousands of documents attest to this. The phone numbers of thousands of individuals who have been flagged as possible targets by nations with access to Pegasus are among the data that have been disclosed. We had a hunch that this technology was being abused before, but now that the doors have been flung open, we can see much more clearly how widespread the misuse has been. Although a numbers inclusion on this list does not guarantee that it has been compromised, we have been able to investigate in some instances, performed forensics on the phone the user was using at the time, and discovered evidence of a Pegasus infection, whether successful or unsuccessful, in hundreds of cases. As far as we are aware, NSO Group has maintained for years that it is a tool for law enforcement.
Pegasus spyware drama is back in the spotlight. The government has passed a resolution authorizing the creation of a special committee.
However, our investigations have shown us how much of it is a fantastical story. For the individuals it targets, the widespread deployment of this program essentially means the end of their privacy. That has very really significant consequences for how everyone who has a valid secret lives their life. Something like Pegasus has the most grave consequence of increasing the likelihood that a dictatorship government would not transform into a democracy. Since such systems and regimes were already fixated on keeping an eye on their populace to maintain control over them and keep them from rising and toppling them, this technology greatly expands your ability to do so. It does, in our opinion, represent a bigger danger to democracy. It's alarming to learn that many of the technologies we take for granted on our phones, many of which, even if we recognize them to some extent, do not keep us secure. Most people consider architecture to be only a kind of space and object design. However, mapping documented instances of human rights breaches via the use of architecture is a highly helpful technique. We look at corporate and governmental violence using media geographical methods and technology. We look into law enforcement. We look into the armed forces. On occasion, we look into secret services. In a single study, academics, researchers, designers, developers, and architects collaborate. They often worked on the brutality committed by Israeli colonists in Palestine. That has mostly entailed roadblocks, checkpoints, and acts of violence by the military and police against Palestinians up until now. Colonialism in the modern day is also digital. People must be under your authority. We don't know enough about Pegasus to make a firm decision. We are aware that the hack will take the form of a one-click exploit, in which case your phone will be compromised the moment you click on a message that appears on it. Alternatively, it appears as a zero-click.
The cyber industry is using when they are talking about targeting someone.
This is the point at which your phone may be compromised by missed calls. The NSO discovered a flaw in WhatsApp and also employed software to get access to users' phones. Pegasus is essentially laying the groundwork for the next front in the battle against global civil society organizations and activists. We had been following Pegasus for perhaps 3 or 4 years. It was first brought to light when detectives were sent in to look into the 2014 disappearance of the Ayotzinapa students. They moved into the town of Iguala and vanished from sight. On September 26, 2014, 43 teaching students vanished from Iguala, Guerrero, after being abducted by municipal police officers and turned over to an organized criminal organization. There is ample proof that government officials at all levels impeded justice. A ton of data was gathered on the disappearing act, including CCTV camera recordings, phone conversations, images, and videos. According to an inquiry, there's proof that the state was involved in that disappearance, including governmental collaboration. There was a great deal of official cooperation revealed in that very contentious case in Mexico. The state attacks journalists like Carmen Aristegui, who starts covering it, or attorneys like Centro Prod, who attempt to hold the state responsible in the petition. And Pegasus specifically targeted these individuals. We knew that the state was very interested in the inquiry and that the findings harmed the state. Many of the individuals on that list were people they knew personally, and they realized they had to take something. Since Pegasus had targeted many, it was only logical for them to begin using our skill sets. They might also use the open source principles of forensic architecture.
The problem is there are not proper controls around how this technology is being used.
Therefore, everything that is in the public domain, anything that is discussed and uploaded that is available to the general public, is examined via open source research. Every NSO target and every narrative were covered separately. They began to peruse every available report, article, and story of hacking. Thus, by gathering data from Mexico, Rwanda, Palestine, and India, and combining it. On a platform, you may see business transactions, hacker exposes digital and physical violence, and contextual events in a 3D interactive area. We may learn more information thanks to the open source research culture. NSO has launched a public relations effort to explain the importance of Pegasus and the necessity for governments to have access to it. A major component of the conversation is on counterterrorism. Through this approach, we have discovered that investigators were the ones who were most intrigued by such authoritarian governments. These include community organizers, journalists, activists, opposition figures, religious leaders, dissidents, and those who are residing abroad. Very different from what one could think of as a so-called terrorist. Being targeted for anything has a profoundly negative psychological impact on you. You may stop talking because you don't want to talk to others or risk upsetting them. Pegasus disrupts the practice network that addresses state offenses. I've spoken with more than 12 Pegasus prospects over the last 18 months. These are individuals who have been arrested and imprisoned. Nevertheless, some of them were on the verge of tears as they spoke about their hacking experience.
Pegasus spyware is pretty serious stuff because it can get into your phone, it can turn itself on and film things without your knowledge, it can listen in without your knowledge, all sorts. It can send messages without your knowledge.
They were discussing emotional, psychological, and nightmare suffering. Our effort is an attempt to retaliate against the government's attempt to sever such networks. Since everyone has a smartphone these days, I believe that people relate to this narrative on an instinctive level, and people are understandably afraid when their smartphone turns into a spying tool. Some of the world's strongest individuals find it scary. Because Pegasus is so sophisticated, it is exceedingly hard to catch every incident of hacking. Now, we gathered this data with the knowledge that it represents a small portion of the real hacks. Even with this small sample size, we are still able to identify trends and connections in the mechanisms underlying digital violence. Additionally, you may convey a narrative in addition to identifying patterns and relationships. The landscape of combat in Saudi Arabia and Mexico differs greatly from one another. However, putting them side by side reveals that digital and tactile media function quite similarly in these two contexts. This spyware is targeting people from all around the globe. And luckily, if there's one thing we can say about this project that's over, it's that the state's endeavor was a failure. Individuals are not kept silent. If anything, their angst, organization, and power are growing. We continue our work, we continue resisting, we will hold our states accountable, and we're not afraid, one may declare while standing up. In response to all of that software cutting and silencing, as Pegasus does, we are building networks. If you find value in the content we provide in this channel, please leave a comment down below. Also, drop a comment regarding your thoughts on these new Denmark's groundbreaking mental health technologies. To get the latest updates, kindly hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.